Scaling personalized student outreach with limited resources is tough. At Muhlenberg College, Shane Biglini used Element 451's AI first Ignite tools to generate a 12-month nurture campaign in minutes.
I remember sitting in a meeting. We were talking about long-term lead nurture for a graduate program. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to show off here a little bit. So I built out in the meeting, projecting on the screen, a 12-month nurture campaign, one email a month for 12 months. And I let it run in the background and I pulled it up on the screen and showed the emails. And they were like, how did you do that while we were talking about this? I didn't. AI did.
Harness the power of AI to communicate with students at scale in a single, streamlined marketing automation platform. Now your team can do more than ever with less time and effort. Visit element451.com to learn more.
Welcome to Mastering the Next, a cutting-edge podcast that explores the future of graduate, online, and non-traditional education through the lens of AI and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ray Lutsky, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Element 451. Join me for discussions with some of the thought leaders shaping the future of graduate enrollment management through technology. Mastering the Next is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that helps institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. San Jose State University sits at the epicenter of technological innovation, bridging the world of higher education with the dynamic ecosystem of Silicon Valley. As universities across the country grapple with reimagining digital learning, SJSU is reinventing how higher education can be enhanced through innovative technologies. To explore their approach, I'm joined by Dr. Vincent Del Casino, Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs at San Jose State. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Del Casino.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So San Jose State is uniquely positioned in the heart of Silicon Valley, a place that's changed a great deal over the last 30, 40 years. How has this geographic advantage helped you define yourselves as distinctly different from other universities in California and the rest of the country?
Yeah, it's a really great question. You know, one of our most important jobs is to make sure Silicon Valley runs. And it doesn't run without this great public university right in the heart of its downtown. In fact, we graduate 10,000 students a year and many of them come from this local community, want to contribute back to this local community. And so that opportunity to be right here and to contribute to that economy is critical. And if you look around, you go to any of the big tech companies, you'll find thousands of graduates from our institution. And obviously, we're going to see a lot of engineers, we're going to see a lot of scientists, but you're also going to see human resource professionals, marketing people. If you think about the entire ecosystem, right, of the workforce, we're driving that, as well as partnering with organizations to think about how to answer big questions related to the intersection, for example, of technology and humanity.
I'd love to double click on that for a second. I mean, your proximity to so many tech giants, Google, Apple, I could list many more. I'm expecting that those industry partnerships are directly impacting your pedagogy and your online learning models and aligning with the workforce. How is that all shaping things? Can you give us some examples of how you're working with some of these leaders?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if you look at one of our best and deepest partnerships is with Adobe. And Adobe is a fascinating story because technology companies don't last 40 years in Silicon Valley. And here it is from the PDF to the entire creative suite at this point. We've been a partner with them for a long time and a creative campus. And we've embedded digital and creative literacy across the curriculum in some really interesting ways, where students are doing digital storytelling in science classes, as well as where you might traditionally think of it in the humanities and the creative arts. We've also started to build out curriculum in our library, as well as in our career center, where students could pick up these skills and think about how they package these sorts of activities and think about what it means for them, as they go out in the job market. And to be perfectly honest, if you look at the job market today, thousands of jobs in California that say, can you do these sort of multimedia things? Can you tell stories? Can you do in so many different ways? So we're trying to embed that in a lot of ways. We also recently just connected with NVIDIA, signed a memorandum of understanding to look at how we can help our faculty, staff, and students advance their teaching and learning around the intersections of AI and the classroom, right? So how do we think about upskilling everybody in really interesting ways? So these are just a couple examples that come out really quickly of the partnerships that develop and have developed over time at San Jose State.
I'd love to just to dive into that a little more, because it really is fascinating when you look at some of these companies like Adobe and how far they've come. I remember when they were just Photoshop. And you mentioned NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA for a long time was just known as a really great place to buy a graphics card, buy technology that help you play games or do like video. And then all of a sudden with generative AI coming along, they found themselves in this unique place. How does a university stay at the edge of innovation like that? You're kind of moving in directions that I think a lot of schools, even in the Cal State system, are kind of struggling to follow because they can't grab these trends as readily. What is the secret?
I have to say it really starts with amazing faculty, staff, and students. When you look at the curricular innovation that's come out of San Jose State recently, for example, a degree in computer science and linguistics that's working at the intersection of natural language processing. Like, that's a humanities department and a science department coming together to deliver cutting edge curriculum. That bubbled up from the ground up. That wasn't a presidential directive or a provost directive. People, I think, are enlivened by where they are, right? And so there's a lot of activity. At the same time, we've also said, look, we can't sit here and not ask these questions. So we've got an initiative right now, a hiring initiative, where people are looking at the intersection. For example, I just posted it today, AI and education. And what's the future of artificial intelligence in the K-12 environment, out of our College of Education, right? So we're advantaged by the fact that we're in this kind of adaptive ecosystem that is Silicon Valley, and we're all looking at that and seeing it in real time. At the same time, we're really genuinely interested in asking the ethical questions that come along with all of this, because really we want to build an AI for the civic and social good, which is what we're doing right now in partnership with the city of San Jose, who also signed an MOU with NVIDIA this past week, right? So now you have a city government, one of the largest cities in the United States, and a university coming together and saying, emerging technologies, artificial intelligence need to be happening in downtowns, right? And not on the periphery anymore of where a lot of our Silicon Valley companies come to us. We're going to help drive that ecosystem. And all that kind of comes together to really build a really interesting environment that people are willing to throw their hat in and engage. And the last thing I'll tell you, our students are like, we're not waiting, so they're organizing their own conference this spring on what AI means, how they should use it. And our writing center has jumped in and built an AI writer's toolbox, again, asking, how do you use these tools appropriately? Is everyone ready and is everyone comfortable? No, but we've got a lot of different things going on, including a task force now that's really trying to even capture all the activity. But I definitely think it's an exciting time to be at San Jose State. And to be honest, in the California State University, where we have this amazing, important mission, serving our community and serving our students. And we just launched a College of Information Data and Society to capture some of this activity and to start to scale more curriculum for our students. So it's an exciting time, and people are coming to us now to be partners in that conversation.
That's really exciting. And I in watching what's going on across the CSU system, schools like Sacramento State, where they have a chief AI officer, and there's lots of ways of looking at how to get AI to be a bigger part of the institution. Given your focus and the work you're already doing with your task force, and how do you see the role of AI, not just in terms of pedagogy, which is terribly important, but also in the delivery of education at schools like San Jose State?
When you think about the entire student life cycle and the need to personalize education in the 21st century and have it adapt quickly to you as a learner, well, these tools are going to help us scale some of that. And the challenge we have, and trust me, I would love if the budget for public education doubled, tripled, quadrupled, but we're not in that world right now. So how do we take the very specific resources we have, the amazing people we've hired, great staff, great faculty, incredible student workers, all committed to this experience, and make their jobs easier, handle some of the more mundane sorts of things, address it. So we're looking at all different kinds of ways to more quickly adapt. The other thing that's real is the competitive market in enrollment is a thing. And the demographic cliff, which is number of high school students graduating, has hit California, particularly Northern California. So if you're not turning around answers to questions about admission and things like that at a much faster pace, students are going to go other places. So this year, for the first time, San Jose State's going to launch its first set of admissions in December. We used to wait till February, right? We want to talk to people earlier, get them convinced to be here, and then be able to respond to them quickly. And it goes to really simple things like transcript evaluations. Like, you should be able to do that in a quicker way in this point in time. And then the people on the ground can have the deeper conversation with the student about what that means for them when they're choosing a major, or those kind of conversations, which really help the student think through their intellectual path, right? So we're looking at all these different sorts of technologies as an opportunity to really build a better student experience that starts with them and moves out.
Keeping in line with that mission to serve Californians, and with this demographic cliff coming, a lot of schools are looking at the 40 plus million Americans out there with some college or no degree, or folks who are just looking to upskill and reskill, get a leg up in the job market. And thinking about the diversity of the students you serve, you clearly have a strong commitment to serving diverse student populations. How are your online learning strategies designed to address the unique needs of a diverse student body, particularly given your focus with Silicon Valley and the programs you offer?
It's a really great question, and it's an incredibly important one, and one I've been pushing since I entered the system. Again, I was at Long Beach State for years before I went to Arizona and then came here. So for the last 6 years, we've been talking about this, and we launched SJSU Online January of 23 to focus on undergrads. We actually have been really good in grad online education. We have a information school that graduates 14% of all the masters in library and information science in the United States on an annual basis. And they've been online for a long time, serving the entire country. But we had not been in that undergrad space. We had not been in that reskilling space. And therefore, we weren't really engaging that adult learner community that people often talk about in online education. So we launched in 23. We built it internal. We developed all the mechanisms, and we invested up front. And this semester, we have 700 students. We've already graduated 110 people in 18 months. And 20% of those are students who are returning to San Jose State who couldn't finish the degree the way we had offered it. And that's the way we really, in higher ed, have to respond. We have to see where people are and meet them there. There are plenty of people, actually, we're doing very well in the enrollment space. We're over-enrolled relative to the target we were given this year for California. I think that's because of the amazing diversity of the programs and what we do and how we engage students and the career outcomes of our students. I mean, Wall Street Journal ranked us number 4 among all publics in the United States for it because of our outcomes and so forth. And so that we get people here, but we weren't meeting those other students. So we're diversifying the curriculum, finding new ways to break it down, deliver it in the ways that people want to have it, so that they can find that success and take that SJSU credential and go out into the marketplace and advance their career. So we're all in.
Struggling to make sense of endless research? At the AI Engage Summit, you'll get a hands-on tutorial and meet Notebook LM, Google's AI assistant that transforms complex information like academic papers and lecture videos into content that will engage your target audience. The event is free and virtual. Register now at enrollify.org/engage.
It's amazing. You're breaking down barriers clearly and helping folks find ways to get where they need to be, coming back, having not been able to finish, and doing something that I think is important. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, the idea of a sort of a democratization of the tech sector, the idea that the tech sector is a place where there is a center of a lot of privilege and folks have access to things, technologies, software, knowledge, and there's a disparity. So that, we're thinking about first generation students, thinking about students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, marginalized, underrepresented students. How do you see your work either in online or in other ways helping to address that?
Yeah, it's a really important question. I mean, we're 82% students of color at San Jose State. We're about 40% first generation, but this is one of the most expensive zip codes in the United States. And so we have a lot of students who are actually Pell +1. They're middle class. They come from middle class backgrounds. Their families may have a higher ed degree, but it doesn't mean that there's an automatic pathway to social mobility now. So the democratization of access to technology is critical. And I've written in a number of places, I actually think the next great digital divide, which has been internet access, as we've talked about, is actually access to high performance computing. The ability to work in large language models. Because if we're not training people in these spaces, they're going to have a hard time in the job market of the future, in almost any job area, right? So we're trying to figure out how to partner to deliver on that. And it's a challenge for a public institution to maintain that kind of infrastructure. But we fortunately got some money from the National Science Foundation. We've had some partnerships. We have amazing faculty to be able to raise some of that capital. So we've been able to do it, but it is a trick because all the big models now, from climate to sociology to geographic information science to what's happening in spatial epidemiology and health, right? Each one of these now in a big data world is pulling from so much information that if you don't have access to the tools to do that, and we're not training people in those spaces, this is the thing that's really interesting from a social perspective and thinking about the diversity of our students. One of the biggest challenges in data literacy is understanding how your data are out there in the world. Well, if you don't know how the models work and you can't see behind the curtain, it's very hard to be an active citizen, either here or when you graduate. And so we really want to think about that and put those tools in students' hands so that when they go out into the world, they want to make sure they bring those same democratic and open principles to the data world that they're going to live in, right, for the future. And perfectly honest, build.
It's amazing. It inspires so many different thoughts about folks I've talked with about access to just knowledge, and how there are students from certain backgrounds that when they were younger, talk to old people today from certain diverse backgrounds, they say that they thought an engineer was the person who drove the train. It wasn't a field. It wasn't something that they thought they could pursue. It was just sort of this thing out there. And now you're seeing that with the digital divide, as you talked about, the idea that even things like leading edge stuff like quantum computing, and who has access to that kind of stuff and who learns about it and who gets those opportunities, really important work. So kind of going back a bit to your online programs, they have been ranked among the top programs in California and the country. And you've done that in very short order. How are you doing this? How are you reimagining online or hybrid in the way that you are, that's produced such success?
Well, this is the advantage of California public higher education. we're so late to the game that there's a lot of well-trodden expertise out there. I happen to be a board member of the Online Learning Consortium. I worked at the University of Arizona, where I helped launch University of Arizona Online. And what I would say, what worked there and it's what's working here, is you maintain a connection to the campus. You give the faculty, empower the faculty to build the curriculum, and you provide them the resources to do that. And when they do that, students feel that, they sense it, they understand, even if it's not synchronous, that they're connected to somebody, right? And that really matters. And that makes a difference, because those same faculty then are completely also invested in the success of their students. And the interesting thing about online education is, yeah, it's great to work with 35,000, but we're really happy right now to work with the 700 and get them all to graduate. And so you build at your capacity and give yourself a break on trying to scale so fast that everybody's, turns around and go, what happened? And so you let it happen a little organically. It takes some time. Not everyone buys in all at the beginning, and that's okay. We don't need every single degree there. We need the people who really want to do this work to do this work. And then you invest in them. And when that happens, people get really committed. And so when you build your enrollment team and your student success team, and you show it as part of the campus, as part of the infrastructure of the campus, and people go, oh, that's an SJSU degree. And I feel really good that somebody is getting an SJSU degree. And that's the thing that I think makes this possible now. And there's so much opportunity in California because the public sector has not responded to this space still. And it surprises me almost every day. But I will tell you, in what we call our professional continuing education space, which includes all our undergrad online, from 22 to 23, fall to fall, we grew 18%. From 23 to 24, we grew 23%. People know the quality that we're going to deliver to them. We're going to give them that authentic SJSU experience as best we can within the modality that we have. And they recognize that, and they're graduating and they're succeeding. And that snowballs, in my opinion, into some really great stuff that's embedded in the campus, right? It's part of SJSU. It's not just something you do on the side. It's part of our project as a campus.
You've built it, and they're coming. But you did also mention, and this is kind of where I'd like to leave our conversation, the competitive nature of all of this. And you're not just competing with institutions in California. And you, having worked at Arizona, know that Arizona is synonymous with great online education really anywhere. And Arizona State University has sort of planted a flag in LA and is out there recruiting students. So what advice would you give to another university leader who's looking at building this infrastructure and having these great programs, but then really wants to be competitive? Is it getting decisions out faster? What would you say to them is one of the key strategies to help them compete with those mega institutions out there that are really kind of, frankly, coming into other people's backyards and taking their students?
You definitely need an infrastructure that's responsive and much quicker than anything traditional higher ed, historic higher ed is used to. So if you can't evaluate a transcript in 48 hours, you're going to be in trouble in this market. There is that as well. I will also say many campuses need to double down on their value proposition and that they are locally committed. People like to be enrolled close to where they are. And that has been proven over and over and over again, even in the online space. When that is absent, people seek out other opportunities. And so if you create an infrastructure that's responsive to the student, not the institution, not how you like to do things, but how students want to interact with you, and then be proud of the value you add to your community through that work, people are going to see that and they're going to come to you. I mean, I'm going to be honest, we're not out of Santa Clara County at this point, but we're getting people from all over the state. And it's really because people appreciate I mean, the California State University and the Master Plan of California is still one of the greatest investments in public higher education in the history of this country. And people want to be a part of it. You know, we're the oldest public university in the Western United States. We predate the land grants. There's a small school in the South, UCLA, used to be our sister campus as a teaching institution. So, you know, people know that value and know what this has stood for. And they go, oh, I'm so glad you're figured out how to meet me where I am, because I really value our relationship together. And when you do that, people come. They do. They love it.
Outstanding. Dr. Vincent Del Casino, Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs at San Jose State University. Thanks for spending time with us.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for the conversation.
Here's my take. California state universities are uniquely positioned to deliver high-quality STEM education, and San Jose State University is a great example of that. A lesson to take from this episode is that industry partnerships and faculty knowledge are key parts of building a successful online program ecosystem. And while not all institutions have the resources to build their own online programs at scale, it's clear that serving local students will help scale to meet demand over time and enhance enrollment. And by building these programs, institutions deliver high-quality education to a larger segment of learners. The Mastering the Next podcast is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Cadieux, J.C. Bonilla, Mallory Wilsey, Brendan Henkel, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.